Okay, let's now create a service so that we can interact with Cloudinary and we can add a photo, and also we'll create a method to delete a photo. So let's close this stuff down, and inside our services folder, let's create a new file, and it's going to be a class, and we're going to call this, in fact, before we do this, let's create the interface. We'll remain consistent with how we're doing this, and when we create a service, we'll create a corresponding interface, which is going to form the contract for what our implementation class is going to have to provide. So I'm going to call this iPhoto service. And I didn't specify interface, but not to worry, because the only difference between this and a class at this stage is the interface there. And let's give this the correct namespace of interfaces. And inside here, we're going to return a task from one method, and it's going to be a type of image upload result. But another thing that we need to add at this point, so we have access to that, is we need to install a Cloudinary package. So I'm just going to open up the NuGet utility. So we'll open up the terminal and select NuGet, and we're going to look for Cloudinary inside here. And the one that we need is cloudinary.net. And we're going to install it into our API project, and we'll just click the plus button to take care of that. And I presume that went okay. I think we get an open terminal tab thing to say it's happened, and we can see the information there. So, okay. And that has now been installed. So what we should be able to do now is say that we're going to return a task, and it's going to be of type image upload result. And we get this from cloudinary.net actions. And I'm going to call this method add photo async. And we're going to pass this an iForm file and call it file. And if we take a look at the description of iForm file, this represents a file sent with the HTTP request. And that is what we need for that. And then we'll have a task that's going to return a deletion result. Again, we get this from Cloudinary, and we're going to say delete photo async, and we're going to take the string of the public ID of the image, as we need that to delete a photo from Cloudinary. So let's go and create the implementation class. So inside the services folder, let's create a new file, and we'll specify it's a class, and we'll call it photo service. And inside this class, we're going to use our new interface, the iPhoto service interface, and we update the namespace here to API services. And then we're going to go ahead and implement the interface. Now inside here, we need access to our Cloudinary account. So we're going to create a normal constructor inside here, because we've got a few things to do inside it. So we're going to create a constructor, and inside the parameters here, I'm going to inject iOptions, and this is how we get access to our Cloudinary settings. And we'll call it config. And effectively, by using this iOptions and Cloudinary settings, then this gives us a type-safe way of accessing our configuration. But that doesn't mean we can't make mistakes when we're setting this one up, because of course we still can. But once we've got it correct, and we use this in many different places, then we can guarantee that it's going to be correct all the way through. So we're going to specify inside the constructor, we're going to say var ACC equals new account. And account is something that we get from cloudinary.net. So do ensure that this has been brought in as well. And inside the parentheses here, then we need to provide this with, and let's get the documentation back up. Then we need to provide this with these options. And these are the options that we need to provide. So the first one is the cloud name. The second one is the API key. And the third one is the API secret. So we need all three of those parameters inside here. So we're going to say config and value dot cloud name as the first parameter. The second parameter is going to be the config.value.api key, and then the third parameter, and these have to be in this order because we're using parentheses. Then there's a very specific order these have to be provided in. So this one's going to be config.value.api secrets, and close it with a semicolon. And then above our constructor, which just creates a private read only, and say Cloudinary, and we'll just give it underscore Cloudinary as its property name. And then below our accounts, we can set Cloudinary to be equal to a new Cloudinary, and then we can pass it the account. And then throughout our class, we can use underscore Cloudinary to access Cloudinary functionality. So inside the add photo async, we'll make this an async task. And inside here, we'll create a variable to store the upload result in, and this is going to be a new image upload results. And we'll check to make sure we have a file. So we're going to check the file length and say if file length is greater than 0, that means we have a file to work with. And then we're going to say using var stream equals, and we'll say file, and we can use the open read stream method. And then we'll create some upload parameters. We'll say var upload params equals new image upload params, and inside here we'll open curly brackets because we've got a few params to provide to this. We need to provide the file, and we'll say new file description, and we'll say file.file name and stream as the second parameter, and I need to add a comma there. And then we can transform the image in some way. So I'm going to say transformation equals new transformation, and we can chain on some transforms for our image. So let's say, for example, we just wanted square images in our website. So we didn't need to mess around with CSS if we allowed all sorts of different sizes of images. So we could say, for example, we want a height of, let's say, 500. We want a width of 500, and then we could specify that we want the images to be cropped, and we can give this a configuration parameter of fill. And we can also, with Cloudinary, we can gravitate towards the user's face. So we can say gravity and face, and let's bring that down. So when a user does upload an image, even if the image is a rectangle like that, then Cloudinary is effectively going to crop that image into a square and effectively crop the image and focus on the face when the cropping is taking place. And because I have used Cloudinary so many times before, I'm also going to specify a folder for the images to be placed into, and I'm going to give the folder a name of da-net8, just so I keep them separate from other images that I've used this same Cloudinary account for before. And then from here we can return the upload results. And then we'll just take care of the delete task. So we'll say public async task, and inside here we'll create some delete params. So we'll say var delete params equals new deletion params. Again, we're getting all of these classes from Cloudinary, and this one takes the public ID, and then we can return await, and we'll say Cloudinary, and we'll use the destroy async method, and this takes delete params, and that should be that. So I've got an error in here somewhere. Let's see what I've done. And okay, so my return upload result is in the wrong place because we've declared it here, which means I don't have access to it inside the if block, or we're not returning from this method. So I'm just going to cut it from there, and that needs to be below the if statement. And apparently also I forgot to actually upload the file to Cloudinary as well, because it's telling me that the async method lacks await operators. So after the upload params, we do actually need to upload the image to Cloudinary. So I'm going to say upload result equals, and then I'm going to say await and Cloudinary, and upload a sync, and pass that the upload params. Okay, that's a bit more like it. All the errors have gone away, everything's good. So we've got our delete photo async and our add photo async methods. And because we've created a new service, we do of course need to tell our application about this and register the service, and we'll do that inside the application service extensions. Now it doesn't have to be grouped together with our other services, but for tidiness purposes, that's where I'm going to put it. So I'm going to say services add scoped, and then I'm going to say the iPhoto service and the photo service. And now that's registered with our API. And in the next lesson, we'll take a look at how we can use this in our controller endpoints.